Welcome to Emotions and Eating with Nicola-beer. Nicola controlled her feelings using food for 25 years, so she knows how draining it is to be constantly thinking about or acting out with food. Thankfully, having made an amazing breakthrough in her recovery, her mission became about helping others escape the unsatisfying cycle of frustration and self-medication with food. Nicola is determined to help you find your inner strength so you can be healthy, gain confidence, feel great, and be at peace with yourself and food.
Hi and welcome, this is Nicola-beer and I'm so happy you're here. Welcome to episode 3 of Emotional Eating. Today I'm going to be talking about why and how emotional eating is such a big problem in the Western world and how we need to pay attention to this if we want to become free and if we want to improve the health of the Western world. Many of us don't even realise this, but emotional eating is the number one cause of obesity in the Western world. And while emotional restricting, extreme dieting and purging is the number one cause of eating disorders. Despite this, most diets and nutritionists ignore the emotional element and tend to blame the wrong type of food, diet or exercise. And this makes the problem worse, because people then focus all of their attention onto food, dieting, nutrition and exercise, which can often cause a greater, bigger obsession and a bigger problem with food. Does that make sense? It's creating us to focus on food more, to focus on our weight, to focus on our diet even more, and then this is when people get trapped. They get trapped because they think, if only I find the right way of eating, if only I find the right time to eat, if only I find the right food combinations, if only I find the right way of exercising, if only I find the right diet pills, the right herbal supplements, the right protein supplements, then I'm going to eat sensibly, or I'm going to be a normal weight, or I'm going to be a healthy eater. And yet this is no defense against our emotional highs and lows. Our emotional need to control food and control weight is the trigger behind the behaviour in the first place. So people often feel more hopeless and disheartened and more defeated when they try the next detox, the next diet, a different way of eating, and they fall back to their same patterns. To ignore the emotional element in compulsive eating, undereating, bulimia is robbing people of happiness and the freedom that they deserve. And sadly, let's not forget, it's also killing many people. On my road to recovery, I took some big steps towards healing myself. Doing it on my own and relying on my own willpower clearly did not work. I tried to be balanced and break free, but any successes were soon followed by a huge crashing binge and purge that would last days, weeks, or sometimes months. So finally, I plucked up the courage to get some help. I was nervous because I knew I couldn't hide from the fact that I had this eating issue or eating illness any longer. I started going to counselling sessions. I began going to weekly counselling that I paid thousands of dollars for that was supposed to be helping me, but they weren't helping me. They were focused on the problem rather than the solution, if that makes sense. Every week, I would talk about my past, my childhood, my food behaviours, which was therapeutic the first couple of times, I must admit. But then it came a bit repetitive. There were no solutions to handle the emotions differently, no solutions or tips to manage my food differently. It was me doing all the talking and there was no guidance. It felt so one-sided. I longed for tips, I longed for some steps. Each week I was met with more silence. Needless to say, I felt like they weren't really doing anything for me whatsoever. So after the 8th session I attended, I was considering whether to go or not. And then I had some really bad financial news. The thing is, I was not really feeling any much stronger in my eating, any much stronger in myself through going through this counselling. And although I was hoping to conquer the problem, this news pushed me further and further into a hole. Basically, I found out that a friend that I lent a lot of money to for their business had completely disappeared. The business had gone bust, and the friend was nowhere to be found. All the paperwork I thought I had put in place to protect me from this happening couldn't do anything, and I lost all my savings in this business. I was distraught. I was screaming inside, and I couldn't function. It occupied my thinking. I was filled with negativity. So much negativity that I could not snap myself out of it. I hated myself. I hated my past. I hated him. I hated the future. And I hated my life. I feared, what would I do if I don't get the money back? I feared that if I couldn't get the money back, I wouldn't be able to cope. I wanted to starve myself, stuff myself, punish myself. I wanted to make myself be sick. I wanted to just use food. My emotions were so dark, I did not know what to do with myself. I felt like escaping, like I would never feel happy or at peace again. And so, like many other times before, when I felt scared, alone or frustrated, I turned to food and actually did use food. That night, I decided to make a cake to cheer myself up. I made a cake big enough where it says on the recipe to serve 12 people. Once it was ready, I stuffed it down so fast that it burnt the inside of my mouth. I must have ate the whole thing in less than 10 minutes. And then I wanted some more, so I made another one. I was feeling so much frustration inside, I just wanted to eat more and more and more. So whilst the cake was baking, I raided my cupboards, eating everything in sight. I finished off the cereal, adding honey and syrup and all the nuts I had in the house to it, crunching through the anger. I used to do this when I was a child. I used to get all the cereals in a bowl and then get the syrup, and it took me back to that time. I finished off the bread I had there, laying it with peanut butter and stuffing it down. Then the second cake was ready, and I ate it. And again, I couldn't even wait for it to cool down. Burnt my mouth again, and I got a blister at the top of my mouth, but I still continued. And then I took a pause, and I knew then and there I was going to be sick. In fact, I probably knew before I was going to be sick, and that's why I carried on eating. So I gulped down a fizzy soda and was sick several times. After I was finished, I felt so defeated and disappointed. I reached for my phone to see that if I had any messages, and I looked at the time. Not only did I feel sick, had I been sick, had I burnt the roof of my mouth, had I made my throat sore from being sick, I had wasted 3.5 hours in this binging and purging cycle. The frenzy I'd gone on left me feeling 100 times worse. You may be thinking that would be enough pain for me to stop. Unfortunately, it was not. The urge to make the cake again the next day came. This time it will be different, the voice said. This time you'll just eat a little bit of cake. Don't have any dinner, and just have the cake for dinner. But only have like a quarter of it. If you have a quarter of it or a third of it, just do that, and the next you can save for tomorrow. But of course, that didn't happen. For weeks on end, I would repeat the same ritual. Some days I cared, other days I knew I was hurting myself, eating the cake and being sick, but I didn't care. When I attempted to stop myself, I couldn't. There was nothing I could do, it seemed, that would end this cycle, this soul-destroying relationship I had with food. It's easier to believe that this is why emotional eating is one of the Western world's most dangerous conditions to have and to go through. Fear, anger and depression are the main culprits. Fear of not having enough money, fear of losing someone, fear of being fat, fear of being rejected, fear of being made a fool of, fear of failing, fear of success even. Fear is a huge motivator for emotional eating. With fear, you can feel like there's something missing, that there's a hole in your stomach, and it can feel like you need to fill that hole with food. Anger also can stir the need to munch, to crunch your way through food, or turn the anger inward. And when you turn anger inward, you can turn it so inward that you starve yourself, or you make yourself sick. I remember times where I felt so angry, I would say, "You don't deserve to eat." If I lost a piece of work on the computer, I would say, "Right, that's it. You're not eating now." If I got rejected by someone, I'd be like, "You're not eating." It was a way of acting out my emotions. And then there is depression. Now, I am going to be sharing on depression coming up, and the link with depression and eating disorders. So do subscribe to the show. When you subscribe to the show, it means that you're going to be able to get consistent episodes from me. So wherever you're listening, whatever platform, check out the subscribe button, because depression and eating disorders and eating issues are really linked. And sometimes when we're depressed, we can feel that life is so down, life is not the way we want it to be, we can feel trapped, we can feel that there's no hope, and we can feel, what's the point? Who cares? I may as well eat. Or who cares? I may as well not eat. And also the danger with this is that with depression and with anger and with fear, the emotional trigger can give us the illusion that something harmful can comfort us. That a harmful food, like let's say eating a whole cake in one go, that is harmful in a rational mind and thinking. But we can say to ourselves, in that mindset, "Oh, this will bring me comfort. I deserve it. I need it. I'm going through a hard time." And it's this way of thinking that needs to be addressed. And the diet industry and the health nutritionists, they all have their role, but they don't address this mind game. And then there's food behaviour. Believing that being sick after your food is going to make you feel good. Believing that starving yourself that day is going to make you feel good. Is it really what your body needs if you're going through an emotional time? The thing is that I have learned that there is a better way to live that does not make you feel emptier inside or disappointed in yourself. A way that makes you feel great. A way that leaves you feeling at peace with food, at peace with yourself, and at peace with your body. And I want you to know that if I can do it, so can you. Because I had a food issue for 25 years. I went from compulsive eating to binge eating to starving myself, bulimia, to laxatives, to compulsive eating, to starving myself, to bulimia. I've done it all in repeated cycles, and I've managed to get through. And it doesn't have to be painful like this, it really doesn't. So I'm going to be sharing with you over the episodes how to deal with the emotions. I'm going to be offering some tips. And for now, I'd just like you to be open to see and feel what emotions you are feeling when you eat. So I'm going to be giving you more guidance as we go along. So I'm going to give you an exercise now to think about what to do over the coming hours, days, weeks, because you may have ignored your feelings for a long time. Maybe you feel frustrated right now, upset, disappointed, resentment, attacked, fearful, lonely. Or perhaps you're numb and you've ignored your feelings for some time. You don't even know what feelings you have. And if you're willing to do this exercise, great. And if you're not, then maybe make a note in your calendar, episode 3, emotional eating, to come back to do this exercise. And if you would like me to email you this exercise, or you want to email me any thoughts or any questions, then you can email me at nicola@purepeacecoaching.com. So it's Nicola, Nicola, at purepeacecoaching.com. I'll put the link where I share this episode, and email me and let me know any questions that you may have, any questions on this exercise, if you want me to email you this exercise, or anything else at all that this has brought up for you. or if you just want to get straight started and you want to learn